Hi everyone, this is Chantel Rivera. Currently, I'm interning at Port St. Lucie School Board. Um, Basic information. Name of the agency is Port St. Lucie School Board. Location is 9461 Brandywine Lane, Port St. Lucie, Florida 34986. Hours of operations are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Their mission statement is our mission is to ensure all students graduate from safe and caring schools equipped with knowledge, skills, and desire to succeed. I did ask the fee structure. I was kind of told multiple information, but from what I was informed was there are no fees that the parents or the students have to pay. It's all depending on the way the fee structure goes. As kids are expected to come to school due to the expectation of the kids coming to school, that each student actually will accumulate a certain amount of money for the school every day they attend school or per certain quarters that they attend school. The website address is www.stlucie.k12.florida.us. Type of agency is public. They do get funding from state agency. They are state agency and federal. They do receive funding through government funding and with grants. Client population served. Eligibility requirement. There is an eligibility requirement. The eligibility requirement is between the ages of 4 and 21. This all depends on the learning situation or the learning disability. Meaning, typically, we know students graduate the age of 18, but typically some schools will keep you past that due to your learning disabilities or certain disadvantages that you have shown that shows that you do need to take longer in school and take your time. School is technically voluntary based on the parents because it's the parents' choice of where they send you and where you're going to. Waiting period to receive initial services. There is no waiting period, pretty much. When it comes to services as a social worker, to receive social work services, you would have to be an attendance concern, or you would have to have social exposure, social skills concerns, meaning in class you have social issues with speaking with other students and you just lack social skills pretty much. Referrals come from the attendance teachers or guidance counselors. The number of clients that can be served and the number of clients on a typical caseload for a BSW. First off, there are no BSWs that work this position. They're all MSWs with license with LCSWs or a mental health certificate from the school board. Caseloads varies typically on how many schools you have. So that could easily range from, if you had one school, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,100 referrals. Now, if you have two schools, that can easily go up to from 1,000 to 1,100 to 2,000 to 2,200. Or if your school is one of those schools where it's a combined school where you have elementary and middle school combined, it can vary from 1,500 to 2,500 students. And if you have two students, that can easily range up to, two schools, that can easily range up to 5,000 students. And when we say students, this all means any of these students end up having any attendance issues, they're immediately put on the social workers' radar, especially if they miss a certain amount within the criteria that would implement truancy and other services. Also with the social groups, if there's a need because of social developments and things that come in those standards, then most definitely that would be a referral to the social worker or a client that the social worker may work with. Client population continuance. The agency is client-centered. Their biggest motto is they stick with is meeting the children and the parents where they are to provide all assistance to alleviate any of the boundaries that the students are facing momentarily, and meaning why it is that that student is not coming to school, what it is socially that the child is lacking that they need more improvement with, what boundaries are being in place at the moment that needs to be removed to give them better guidance for them to graduate from school or gain more social skills. Do clients have grievance procedures? With the school board, they do have a grievance procedure. They didn't really call it a grievance. It's more of a complaint situation where if a parent feels a social worker has overstepped their boundaries, they're more than welcome to report them to the school board. The school board would most definitely go in and investigate, and all depending on the complaint depends on the implementation of the consequences. There are interventions provided. So with the intake and referral procedures, the referrals are given to social workers are primarily due to attendance concerns. The social workers intervene to help the students attend school and help with eliminating boundaries that prevent the child from attending school. The types of interventions that would typically be given to a student, because those are the only types of interventions that are displayed, which would be the groups. So those are basically social groups. So anything that has to do with their social development. So they'll have a social group therapy session, or they'll have just a social group where kids learn social skills to improve their social development. Location base of interventions. Mostly all the interventions are done on the school. That is mainly due to the convenience of knowing that the student is there at the school and you could just grab them from their class, do a 30-minute session, and pretty much that's it for their group. Due to COVID-19, a lot of the interventions are based online through Teams and Zoom. Do they provide transportation? Technically, yes, they do provide transportation for all students. If you need to ride a school bus and you're outside the school limits, then most definitely transportation is provided for you. But once again, all interventions are typically held during school. So having to have a child transported from one location to another is not necessary because everything is done right there at their school, and it's very convenient for the students to attend all groups. The average length of treatment would typically be about 6 weeks, but all depending on the parent. If, for example, they sign an IPE, which is a sheet that describes the concerns that the parent has about their child, they can request that the child does receive interventions for up to the whole school year. So they can be extended if needed. Measurable outcomes of the to assess the implementation. The child's behavior and interactions with the teachers and students informs the social worker and the school about the child's progress. So typically there's a weekly report that the school or the teacher will put out to let the social worker know and the school know how this child is progressing with these groups being implemented. Follow-up procedures depend truthfully on the student and truthfully on the social worker's gut. Typically towards the end, one social worker told me towards the end of a group, they'll have a gut feeling whether or not the student does need to continue services. If they do, they'll make the recommendation to the school and their parent. If not, and it's decided they don't want to, the social worker will follow up on a monthly basis just to see if the student is still going to classes, if they're still interacting with the teacher and the students like they should. So those are considered, and that all determines whether or not there will be a follow-up. Where are the clients referred when terminated? In most cases, once the services are done, that's pretty much it. But during the group, if the social worker sees that the student does need additional services and it's services that they cannot provide, they will immediately recommend additional social development groups, or they will most definitely link them to other mental health components that will help better yet help the child and the parent with their social development concerns. Context that shapes the practice. Are there emerging trends of technology, politics, medicine, science, religion, economics, etc.? Currently, because of COVID-19, there was technology going on, but technology has become so much more advanced now due to COVID-19. So because of COVID-19, the schools shutting down, they've had to use technology to make sure all these students that were not able to go to schools were able to still learn from home and get all the information that they would have received from school. So at the moment, they're implementing Teams, Canvas, and trying to make sure their students are getting all the educational needs that they would have received while going into school. What does the agency do to deal with these changes? Right now, they're still trying to deal with these changes. It's still a move and learn basis. The agency is really trying super, super hard to work with the teachers and the students. A big issue that is going on now is attendance. The reason why I say that is because the teachers are getting used to teaching online, and the students are getting used to learning online. There's a miscommunication with log on, how to keep cameras on, these situations. So they are trying their best to implement rules and procedures on attendance to help with the parents and the children, and making sure truancy isn't as high as it is. But there is a huge absentee issue going on right now. Summary and evaluation. List 2 strengths and 2 weaknesses. 2 strengths that Port St. Lucie School Board schools possess is compassion and determination. Going into these schools and sitting with these social workers, you can immediately feel their passion and their want to make sure all their students come to school and are receiving the services that they need. And they go hard to make sure all their students get everything that they need. And that's wonderful to go into being a parent and see that it's not just me trying to make sure my child is succeeding, but to also see there's a whole group trying to help and make sure the kids are receiving what they need. 2 weaknesses that I would say that is a big issue is communication between the different levels, the different staff levels, and knowing the true meaning of what a social worker title is. The reason why I say that is they tend to bleed a lot of issues that would be primarily for the teacher to handle. They tend to push it off on the social worker. And a lot of the times when we go out here and you say the word social worker, and people's most response and the stigma that usually comes with social worker is that we're in the business to take away kids. So for a parent to hear from the school from the first time and it's a social worker, their immediate response is, whoa, why are you calling me? Are you trying to take my child away? So that's an immediate scare for the parent, which automatically brings down the need or want from that person that at that time that they're probably experienced. So my recommendation to address both these needs, I would highly recommend using the Colbert Model Stage 4 Law and Order orientation. This is huge. This will be a huge need for social order and making sure everyone is following the rules to help create or keep social good amongst the community. The reason why I say this is that last portion, the components of what the 2 weaknesses are, they collaborate huge, because the fact that teachers really don't understand what the true meaning of what the social worker's title is, and they bring their problem of the student not logging on to just do work, yet they're attending the class. They just didn't do the work. They'll bring that to the social worker. And reality is the social worker's title is mainly to do with the absences and making sure the child is attending school. Now, if the child isn't completing their work and they're attending school, that falls on the teacher and them having to contact the parent and make sure their child is actually doing the work they need to. Now, if it's an attendance issue and they see it's all within the protocol of when we would do call-ins or truancy, most definitely the social worker will jump in. But because there's that issue of not following the levels or communicating with the staffs at certain levels and making sure reports are being made, it causes a whole bunch of hands to be in one pot. And when that parent finally does get that call from that social worker, they're completely irritated and want nothing to do with the school at that point, because so many people have called for one thing, which a teacher should have primarily called and try to fix it at the beginning. But other than that, I love where I'm interning at the moment. It's completely opened my eyes to what the school board goes through and what social workers go through in the school system. It's a great experience and I wouldn't change it for anything. But thank you guys, and I hope you enjoyed.